Well, I have been highlighting the compromises related to disc brake frames by moving the braking on the rim brake, which is the calipers, which is mounted to the connection of the triangle on the rear and also at the bearing point at the top of the forks, and moving the calipers to the extremities of the fork and also to the triangle. Now, doing this creates some compromises with the design characteristics of the frame. So let's roll that intro and let's get into it, and also how another Australian YouTuber who has a very close ear to the industry has confirmed such information. Now, before we can understand why this is significant, we need to talk about suspension, because a lot of people make the argument, go, oh, we had disc brakes in the mountain bike industry for years and the technology is mature, and you road bike guys, you know, it's just old fuddy-duddies, blah, 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 right? But the reality is that putting disc brakes on a road bike is quite different to having disc brakes on a mountain bike, because with mountain bikes, the disc brakes are isolated from the frame due to suspension, whilst on a road bike they're not. The frame actually is an integral part of the suspension, and this is where the problem starts. Now, suspension itself is designed not to give a vehicle comfort, but is to keep the wheels in contact with the ground. So when you're going over undulating surfaces and the surface is not perfect, or it's leaning or whatever, then the suspension can allow the wheels to maintain contact to the ground, so you don't lose traction, so the car doesn't skip or the tyre doesn't slide. So then you can put your power down, or your steering still maintains contact with the road surface. And we also need this in a bicycle. Now, Chris Miller Cycling, who is another fellow Australian, he's on the other side of the country to me. He's on the East Coast and I'm on the West Coast. But he actually has a very close ear to the industry, and he's actually confirmed that the designers of these bicycles, road bicycles, are really struggling to be able to come up with a way of being able to bring that compliance back into the frame without compromising the strength that's required for the disc brakes. So, yeah, I've been actually saying this, and if you check out some of my older videos, I've been saying this for some time now. But, you know, people are naysayers, and they say, yeah, look, this is the future, blah, 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 blah. And they compare to mountain bikes all the time. I get that constantly. But the reality is this is a real issue, and it's being confirmed by other people in the industry. And what we need to realize as well is that compliance can be built into the wheels as well. But the problem is with disc brake wheels, which also is another problem, is that we want to ride low spoke disc brake wheels because we want to get the weight down. Now, the reason that that becomes an issue is because we're putting the braking forces through the spokes, or some of the spokes, they need to run the wheel at a very high tension. Otherwise, when you brake, the wheel is going to detension some of the spokes, and that's when you get spoke failure. So they have to run the spokes at quite a high tension. So you can't build a compliance into the wheels either. So this basically adds on to the problem that you can't use another component on the bike to cure that problem that exists with making the forks in the rear triangle much more stiffer to transfer the load through the frame from the braking system. Well, if we look at the last video, you know, basically was which tyre gives the best ride, and that triggered a few people, which was quite amusing. But I'll just go to the first comment that I've got written here, and the best tyre is the one that seldom goes flat. Now, absolutely, you know, if we could have everything in a tyre, and they didn't flat, that would be fantastic. And I do believe that tubeless tyres are the industry's answer to this, and tubeless tyres are trying to be the tyre that you can ride and will fix all your flats. But at this point in time, it's still a bit of a compromise. I mean, I know some people think differently, and that's fine, but to me, the sealants need to be improved. The tyres need to get finer, and they're actually doing that. I just mentioned Veloflex have released a correspond tyre. How good and how resilient that will be to flats will be questionable as people use them and ride them. Yeah, one person was watching some of my footage of when I was riding my bike and commented that in your part of the world you have really smooth bike tracks, and our part of the world they're quite rough. And I will say we are very lucky here in West Australia. When they extend the freeway or they do new part of a freeway, they have a state policy where they build these new cycle paths, and the ones that they're actually building in recent times are really fantastic, and they're beautiful. They're usually about 4 meters wide, so they're nice and wide. They're like a brown tarmac, and they're beautiful. But we do have some older ones, which actually was particularly in the old video, but you can't see it, where it was quite bad due to the roots and everything getting into the pathway, or they just put some tarmac over some concrete pathways, and they're quite rough to ride on. But generally, I do think we do have some really high quality smooth bicycle tracks in Perth, WA. And you had another comment, tubulars are a pain in the ass. Now, I will say yes and no to that. Now, if you want to glue your tubulars on and do it the old school way, yeah, they are a pain in the ass, absolutely, and they stink, and you end up like Spider-Man. So you really need to have your setup, if you're going to glue them on, like maybe have a special truing stand or something you can spin, maybe have it in your shed with your glue and some brush you can use to throw away, because once you can't really clean them, so it needs to be a brush that will put your glue on, and you may need a few of those brushes as you do the layers, because once one's set you can't use it again. And I agree, if you're using glue, pain in the ass. But if you use tape, and I've moved to tape over the years, tape is really simple. I mean, I know people go, oh yeah, tubeless and clinches and all that. But really, I think the problem is people haven't tried tubulars with tape, because it's very easy. It's just like putting masking tape on your tyre. You just stick it on. I mean, anyone can do that. And then it has an activating layer. Then you just basically like a lucky band putting it over a can. You put your tyre on, and then you just pull the activation tape, and there you go. You're ready to ride. And you can watch some of my other videos and showing you how to install a tubular with double-sided tape, which is basically what it is. And it's very simple. So I really throw that gauntlet down there. If you want ease of installation, the double-sided tape for the tubular tyres is really easy to use. And one guy was also saying he puts 125 psi in his tubeless tyres. Now, yeah, you can pump them up to your maximum pressure, 100%. But where I think that they're missing the point there is that a tubeless tyre's primary function over the other styles or manufacturing designs is to offer no flats. This, to me, if tubeless doesn't fix your flats, then what's the point moving to it? Because the other systems work very well. So you go to tubeless to minimize your flats. Now, at 120 psi, I don't think there's any sealant that works at that pressure. So you're probably going to lose quite a lot of pressure if you get a hole in your tyre before the sealant's going to start working. I find that anything over 60 psi, the sealants tend to struggle. And we had another guy, basically, it's 2021, what are you doing, talking about tubular tyres and so forth, and tubeless tyres, really have come of age, and they're the new technology, and everything about them is better than everything else. Now, that's fine if you like tubeless tyres and you're getting good usage out of them, and I will agree that is what the industry is pushing. That's what's coming on the new bikes now. But I still don't think they're there yet, like disc brake bikes. Now, to me, if I was going to go and put tubeless tyres on my bike, they have to guarantee me I don't have to take any shit along with me, right, to fix that tyre. I don't want to have to be worrying about, hey, look, there's a cut and I've still got to carry a spare tube, and if I have to take it off, I'm going to have sealant everywhere, I've got to put tube in it. I don't want to have that problem, right? If I'm running a tubeless, I'm going to go through all that effort to buy new rims, buy special tubeless tyres, which are really as expensive as tubulars, and I'm going to fit all these on my bike and set it all up for tubulars. I want them to be basically foolproof, and they're not. They're not. And I think the biggest weakness with them is the casing, which they're actually starting to get on top of that, and the sealants. The sealants need to be improved. The sealants need to be able to work at higher pressures and work much more effectively in a lower volume tyre. Well, anyway, guys, that's where I'm going to leave it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next vid. Cheers.
Mm-hmm.